There was some question about what I was looking for Lab 1, which is under week 2. Let's take a look at Lab 1, first of all. You guys have MSCN AA, which means you can download Word. You can also download Visio. Um, I'm using Visio 2013. You can also use Visio 2010 if you want to. It's up to you which one you want to go for. I'm going to show you in 2013, but it's the same thing in 2010, really. I have a number of tables. So this is like the sort of like the word problem, what each thing is. And what I did was I gave you the tables that came out of the exercise: company, product, product version batch, spec, and status. And these are the tables that we'll be using. So let's start with company. Company has company ID and company name. What I did was I went over to Visio. Let's go to File, New, Database, and then what I'm going to do is IDE F1X and create it in US units. Let's drag over the first entity, make it a little bit bigger so everybody can read it. I can read it too. And I'm going to change this to company. It was company ID and company name. Okay, so let's say edit text again. Company ID. I'm right clicking to do this. Company name. And I don't really need the last one, so let's get rid of this one. Cut. Let's see if that'll work. Cool. So company's there. Didn't want to do that. I'm going to Control Z. I want to do the whole thing. There we go. And next one is product and product version. I'll drag over product. All I did to do that was double click. Product ID. And that was prod ID and prod name. Fair enough. So product's there. And product version. Let's pull that over. Now I'm not going to do every single table, but I just want to show you how to do the relationships. This is prod ID. Prod version ID. Company ID was in there too. Okay, so I'm going to right click prod ID and I'm going to say insert primary attribute before. Double click this again, company ID. So I've got company ID, product ver ID. Let's make sure I keep the same names. Prod, ver ID. Cool. And then revision date and status ID. So let's say revision date and status ID. And I'm going to do that by right clicking this. Nope, right clicking. Darn it. There we go. Insert attribute after. This one's status ID. Okay, so now the key for product ID or product version is company, product, and product version ID. See the key. Let's see, product version ID. All three of these are the keys. Notice that they're all bold. So let me fix the primary key. What I'm going to do is click company ID. I'm holding down the control button. I'm going to select product ID. I'm going to select product version ID. So you could see that all three of these things are selected. I'm going to right click. Let me do set primary key. I'll turn that off. Let's see. Try this again. Set primary key. I should have done it. Let's see. Okay, so if you do one at a time, it'll set the primary key. So this one, I have a composite key with 3 parts of a key. This one, I've got a primary key here, primary key there. So let's start building the relationships. I'll bring over relationship, See here, this side goes to the one side, one product. This side goes to the many side. Let's double click this guy and see what it's all about. Okay, let's bring up company. I did the something else. Let's see. The relationship is what I wanted. Again, the one side goes to the part without the little dime at the end. Many side. So the relationship between company, product, and product version, it's actually a ternary relationship. In other words, all three things. You have to marry company ID to company ID, product ID to product ID, and there's product version ID. Now, eventually when I do product version batch, I'm going to relate this to that table. These three keys will be there, as well as product version batch ID will be the fourth part of the key of the product version batch table. So this is, so far I did 3 of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tables. Okay. The other 3 tables, status, there's going to be a table called status. It's going to be somewhere over here. It's got a key of status ID and a key attribute of status desk. Status ID is going to be a one-to-many from the product version table and also from the product version batch table. Here's status ID. So status is going to be tied to this table and this table. This table is going to be tied to this table and the company table and the product table. So I've got product ID, company ID, product version ID. These three will tie to product version. This one will tie to product, and this one will tie to company. The spec table, spec ID, so far I don't think I have. Yeah, so spec is sort of all by itself. Spec is not, at this point, not related to, not to any of these guys. I just wanted to give you sort of halfway, halfway through this. Eventually, spec will relate to product version batch, but not right now. But still, you have to account for it. So this table's on the diagram, all by itself, with spec ID and spec name as attributes. Very good. I'm going to post this. If anybody has any other questions about the Visio assignment, again, once you understand, you only need to know a couple things. One is the entity, which ends up being the table, and the relationship. And the way the relationship works when you drag it over, and this will work for Visio 2010 and 2013, there's 2 sides of the relationship, the one and the many side. The many side looks like that diamond. Just make sure when you're doing the one-to-many that the many goes to the many side and the one goes to the one side. So let's read this product. For every product, there's one-to-many product versions. For every company, there's one-to-many product versions. If this was backwards, if this relationship was backwards, that means a product version only ties back to one company. That doesn't make any sense. Excellent. Please let me know if you have any other questions. Thank you very much.